All right, Monday afternoon, you know what that means. It is Hit the Books time, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish, celebrating another Lions cover and also a big win, which we'll be talking about in the game on Saturday. I am merely Brad Powers. Before we get into that, though, as you can see, as we're sporting some gear here, we do have a sponsor. Hit the Books on the Hammer Betting Network is now powered by Circa Sports. You can bet like the pros with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. It's Circa Sports. You can experience big at bets. That's more up Joey Knish's lane. He's betting them $40,000 openers that they just had. Highest betting limits of any book on any app in the world. You got better money line splits with the lowest hold percentage, best customer service. I can attest to that. And more. It's sports betting on the go like it's never been better. You can now download it, fund it, and bet like a pro from anywhere in Nevada. They're also in a few other states as well. You can get your new bookie today at circasports.com. Mr. Knish, happy Monday, buddy.
Thank you, brother. And you know what? To pile, obviously, great to have Circa on board here. And you know what? To speak to the power you saw, and I know you were. We obviously both bet there. You saw it yesterday. There was some other powerful offshore books open. There were a couple of legal books open. When Circa came in with their own set of numbers, not just copying the screen, their own numbers, what happened?
Yep. Everybody
moved to the Circa number. So, what they've done there in terms of market influence is pretty impressive. Great to have them on board, and obviously a big-time book.
Absolutely, and you're exactly right. It was the first week this season that they didn't necessarily open the market, but they give them credit. They have their own numbers. They don't give a care about anybody else. They posted their numbers, and what happened? Other books just copied. It is a copy and paste industry, but it's good to see who they copy off of, and that would be Circa Sports. Let's talk. First off, best bets 1 and 2. We can get into the games if you want to, but I mean, App State loses in overtime. It wasn't great there. Georgia Southern, couldn't do anything the previous weeks. Looked banged up. Now they look like their offense from earlier in the season. Southern Miss did win. They get the bowl eligibility. Central Michigan, I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know what the hell the MAC is.
Is Daniel Richardson still he does the whole scheme for Central Michigan, going on the run, was they could pass and run and switch quarterbacks on you. And then they just, I don't know if Daniel Richardson, obviously finding this match, I don't know if he was hurt. I don't know, but they didn't play him at all. And when they got down and needed to pass or they didn't have anybody. So, yeah, I don't, that I'll take a chest tap there. That one's on me. Obviously, there was something going on there. I don't know if he's injured or hitting the portal or what. But, Richardson not playing hurt.
They like that, the kid game, one game he ran for 300 yards. He's almost like Ed O'Neill off of freaking Married with Children, Polk High School. And with one game, he had 4 touchdowns. Daniel Richardson's been the starter for a couple of years and led him to a lot of wins. So I hear you in that one. We got to finish bowl season strong. I'm confident, though. Normally you don't say, it's easy to win. I can tell you this, if you hit the motivation right in bowl season, and motivation leads to, guys sitting out, transfers, coaches leaving, if you guess right in bowl season, you can have some really easy winners. So hopefully we get to a lot of that when we finish on the plus side when it comes to best bets. Speaking of the plus side, you came out for the second year in a row on the plus side of the big game, Michigan, Ohio State. That's where we start here. Obviously, you have to be impressed with what Michigan did. First win on the road in Columbus since 2000, 22 years ago. They not only win outright, they give margin on the Buckeyes. They dominate the Buckeyes in the second half, outscoring them 28-3. It's the largest margin of deficit that the Buckeyes had in any half of any game, first or second half, any game going back to 1999. So pure domination by Michigan. Got to be feeling good there, aren't you?
I mean, it was almost surreal. You're like watching. It's like the last time they did this is another lifetime ago. Like this is, when I was a kid. I don't even remember what I was doing. I don't remember where I was the last time we won this game in Ohio State. It's just an insane experience. And I will say, like that, the game starts. CJ Stokes, that freshman quorum can't get it going. They go 3 and out. CJ Stokes misses a few, and you're like, man, like this is we just don't have it. We just don't have enough personnel this year with the injuries. And that second half, a testament just to the coaching staff. And you're finally talking like the plays that have been there, like the JJ McCarthy, this is why they brought him in. Is he going to be able to hit the things that Michigan fans, including me, have been bitching about for the entire year in the passing game? And I will say, I think Jim Knowles got the game plan right. He came in there and they loaded the box and they stopped the run and bottom line is the plays that Michigan hasn't been able to hit all year, or they haven't been tried all year, they were able to get the explosives in this game. And you gotta say, the CJ Stroud, the Ryan Day, some of the conservative decision making got a little. I think Ryan Day. He got a little pit in the stomach there because if you're Ryan Day, you run an up-tempo offense, you run a ride-out, you want a shootout. And when you got in a shootout, what do you need? You manage the game aggressively. You need to go for it on fourth down. You need to take shots. They kind of turtled that second half. I think they got tight. And then, it started getting away from them. And he just, like you said, gave up a few huge plays, and that was that. So, listen, I don't know. Again, I don't know if I have it. I wouldn't have said it before this. This Michigan team, I think they can win a national title. I'm not going to say they wouldn't be a favorite over Georgia, but I think this team, the way it's setting up, has a shot.
They do. We can get to that later. I still would have Georgia probably around a touchdown favorite, but you're right. Although a lot of people that I respect loved Michigan in that matchup last year, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, recruiting rankings do matter at some point. But with that being said, recruiting rankings matter. Didn't look like Michigan had trouble with those 4 and 5 stars from the Buckeyes on Saturday afternoon. Let me ask you this, Knish. I lost my ass because I did bet Ohio State, and I laid 7.5. I laid 8. It was one of my bigger positions of last weekend. Did you have a pre-flop position in the game?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't take I had some Michigan, game of the year tickets. Some Michigan to win the Big Ten. I did come in though on Ohio State Live when it got to around pick-ish, and Michigan took the lead, and I was like, all right, this is obviously hedging a little bit of positions I had already, but thinking that it just that in the end the talent would win out, and some of the guys that Michigan, we knew at that point Corum wasn't going to play, Mike Morris wasn't going to play. They actually weren't getting a ton of pressure on CJ Stroud, So I thought that Buckeyes in the end would be able to make the plays needed, but it just didn't happen. And as you said, a couple questionable decisions, and then the defense just giving up multiple big plays. So yeah, I didn't go pre-flop, but I did go in some on Ohio State Live there, and honestly, I'm as shocked as anybody there for the way it played out in the end.
Let me ask you this: when it comes, because I was waiting to see what your answer was going to be on that question, because I had a producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips. He had a tweet of yours loaded up, and I wanted to see what you're. Oh yeah, I had Michigan, this and that, and I see you tweeted about an hour before the game that there were some concerns, and look, the market reacted. I mean, there was 9.5 popping up. So
yep.
I was under the same impression. I came into it when you saw warmups, when you saw Corum, even after he took a couple snaps, couldn't go. Edwards wasn't really effective in the first half. You watched maybe the first 4 or 5 series of the game. I actually thought at that point Ohio State should have been up multiple scores. I mean, I'm stunned at that second half. I mean, I know it's the biggest game. You don't want to overreact to the biggest game, but that second half was as stunning as a result as any game in college football this year. So kudos, Michigan. I will say this. We kind of wondered if they're playing possum a little bit with J.J. McCarthy. Maybe it was. It reminded me kind of an old school feel to it. The Michigan play calling reminded me of something like, old school Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler saving up stuff for the entire season. And then all of a sudden you have a different, 3-4 wrinkles that you haven't showed all year, saving up for the big game. I mean, when you play Michigan's schedule, you can probably afford to do that. But I was stunned. So, but kudos. I'll say this. Moving forward, the Harbaugh method and the way they play is much more repeatable in that type of weather, that type of climate, that conference. Then I hate to get, move it forward, but Ryan Day, I know he's got an outstanding record, but when you get your ass beat twice in a row by Michigan, a team and program you've dominated for 2 decades, it's not a good look. And even Ohio State fans will tell you, if there's one word that, is used around it a little bit, soft. They're they play a Big 12 style of offense. They just hired a Big 12 defensive coordinator. He was supposed to have all the answers. You're right. I liked what they were doing early, but I don't know. I mean, here's what one defensive play call I didn't like was on that. It's 10-3, and it's like 3rd and long, and they all out blitzed zero. I mean, they cover 0, and just one missed tackle, and your wide receivers running off to the races, and Michigan all of a sudden has a tie ball game when they really hadn't done anything at that point. So that was a questionable play call as far as I'm concerned. But moving forward, I mean, there has to be issues with Ryan Day. And here's the reality. Big Ten's getting better. I mean, because they're hiring better coaches. Luke Fickell is a really good hire for Wisconsin. Matt Rule is a big-time upgrade over what Nebraska's had the last 10 years. Lincoln Riley's coming, and USC's coming to the conference. Here's what I can safely say this. Not only because of the Michigan game performances the last couple of years, but what's ahead, the Buckeyes' reign of dominance, them being clear-cut, the best team in the Big Ten, year after year, that's over with from the last 2 decades. I mean, I can make that prediction right now. I mean, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, I mean, you'd have to wonder. I mean, this is an Ohio State team that's losing. I mean, losing C.J. Stroud doesn't have a ready-made guy that's kind of coming into it. Losing a number of other players off the defense, the other wide receivers. I'm sure Njigba's going, even though he didn't play much this year. They're starting left tackle, and that's a Michigan team that's going to bring a lot back. And you got to go into Ann Arbor next year, and that's going to be a game, regardless of what Ohio State does throughout the year. That if you're Ryan Day and you lose 3 straight. I don't know. It's a hot seat. I don't know if I would use the word yet, but it's one of those. You start the ball starts rolling in the other direction, and I don't know. As you said, I like Steven's chat. Michigan they installed a specific defense and an offense to counter what Ohio State does, and that their entire kind of program structure. For the last couple of years, including their defensive coordinator hires with Minter and McDonald before him, all of that was to counteract what Ohio State does. So I agree with you that they've kind of gone in that direction. But I mean, to tie a ball on a few things, like Edwards has a broken right hand. He carries the ball in his right hand, and you're like, They didn't want to give him the ball in the first because he's having to carry the ball in his off hand. And so I mean, I think there was some that'll be a concern that we'll obviously talk some championship games this week. And then the other thing is, Ohio State was DBU for a lot of years. First-round safeties, first-round corners, every single year. There ain't no first-round players in that secondary right now, I'll tell you right there. And so if you're going to play that zero cover, zero safety defense, you've got to have those guys. You've got to have, Okudas and, the guys that are out there that can play in one-on-one. And they don't. And when you get beat, and then it's a touchdown. So I don't have a problem with the game plan. I had a, just the guys that Ohio State has had back there for what seems like 15 years, those guys, maybe some of the stars are still there, but those guys aren't first-round NFL players, and they got beat and exposed a little bit on the back end. So I don't know. We'll
What
see.
are you talking about? Pro Football Focus ranks the Ohio State safeties as the best safety combo in college football, Knish. I mean, is that a knock on PFF? I mean, I saw the same thing. I mean, how many plays did it come down to the safety play? And I mean, they missed tackles, and then half the time they're not even in the picture. Where are they? Them two guys, the safety play for Ohio State was abysmal. I mean, abysmal. I mean, it really was. I mean, when Michigan scored five touchdowns of 45 yards or more, I mean, that's unbelievable. So kudos. Michigan gets a big win. I think Michigan's in even with the loss to Purdue. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think they're almost safely in at this point. I don't expect them to lose to Purdue. We'll talk point spreads. It's a big point spread there. I wouldn't be too worried if I was a Michigan fan. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's talk another big game, though, that we just saw on Saturday. Another rivalry game, Notre Dame USC. Big news coming out of that one would be Caleb Williams winning the Heisman Trophy, basically, off of the poor performance from C.J. Stroud combined with Caleb Williams playing one of his best games of the season. And a lot of people probably seeing USC for the first time this season saw the Heisman Trophy winner. Because, I mean, he went from, when we talked this time last week, he was a short underdog. Now you're in a situation where you got to bet $30 to win $1 type stuff on Caleb Williams. So a little birdie told me, I don't know, a mutual friend says that he initially asked you about your thoughts for Caleb Williams, and you said, nah, I don't see it. And then he got around to asking, I guess, his number 2 guy. We'll have to talk about that later. But then he asked me, and I said, yeah, make the bet. Full disclosure, I will say I did have a similar response as you did. I said, if he goes to Wisconsin, don't make the bet. If he goes to SC, then sure, bet him 15-1. So that was my response. I think he placated a little bit to me because I had a bad day, and we'll get to more of that in a little bit as far as bad beats. But you did not bet Caleb Williams in the preseason, I should say.
No preseason position. I honestly, I had to take some last week just to kind of cover myself from the Heisman portfolio perspective. But no, I didn't load up again, this was before he even chose USC. But I'll admit, I didn't think USC would win enough games this year. Even if you put up the numbers, I thought, all right, Pac-12 is like Oregon, Utah, UCLA, all these teams are going to be competitive, even Washington, and they beat them all. And now, I think they even lucked out with the Pac-12 title. This is a game, if they were playing a Washington or an Oregon, I might fancy the dog a little bit more. I would pick it. Utah, even though I know they got him that one time, I'm not. I'm leaning USC. I think USC will get it done, and I agree with you. Basically all of the contenders just fell to the wayside, and Caleb Williams, kept going with the numbers. So it's I don't know if there's anything that can happen this weekend within the realm of possibility where he doesn't win, even if they lose. He's still going to put up some number. I think it's already in the bag. I just don't know what could happen. I can't even come up with the scenario.
I guess he could throw 5 interceptions or get hurt on the first
right.
play.
It would have to be just
it might be a 50-50 scenario.
I agree. Just every reasonable contender kind of felt Corum hurt. Stroud loses, looks poor. So yeah, no, at 2,500, that's going to cash. I think it's over. I don't even know what. It's hard for me to come up with a scenario where he doesn't get it done.
In the chat, where did you get Mr. 618 Worldwide 25-1? I'd be anxious to see where that was. I do shop. I bet a lot of Heisman futures. I think I bet about a dozen. Williams wins. It's a decent win for me, but not monster. Anything on the Notre Dame side of things? I know you like bashing Notre Dame. I was surprised. I will say this: SC controlled the line of scrimmage. I was really surprised at that. From watching the tape, I didn't watch it live because I was, I had too much riding on the game. Really good job, believe it or not, by Alex Grinch. Had some really good stunts from their defensive front. And then let's just be honest, Lincoln Riley's a really good play caller. I mean, he's probably the best offensive play caller in college football.
Yeah.
And when you got a guy like Caleb Williams, I don't know how you defend it. So I really don't. Now, with that being said, how do you defend it? Well, I think a team like Michigan, and specifically a team like Georgia, who they might play in the opening round, they got a little bit different athletes than Notre Dame linebackers and the Notre Dame defensive linemen. So Caleb Williams running around like he has been all year. I'm not sure that happens against the Georgia. So I will say a little hint. I'm looking to bet Georgia. I am looking to fade SC in that college football playoff semifinal because I agree with you. I think they're the right side this week. My numbers say it's closer to pick them, but I thought, hey, this has to be at least USC 3.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying anything nefarious, but again, I thought I saw a little bit of it in the Notre Dame game, but 50-50 calls are going SC's way. Pac-12 wants a team in the playoff. So if you're expecting Utah to get a bunch of favorable calls, I'm here to tell you, not happening on Friday night here in Vegas. I expect SC to move along, and shows you that you can rebuild a roster in an offseason now with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I mean, obviously, as you said, he's just a magician with the play calling and the offense. I mean, it's incredible to watch. Just fun to watch his teams play. Through the year. On the Notre Dame side, I think Drew Pine had his best game at Notre Dame, best game as a QB. Their offense was able to. And I'm still, I think the Notre Dame era will be fine. They're recruiting well. They're in a little bit of a talent lull that needs to be brought up. They were competitive in a lot of games that. Against better teams this year. So, again, we've been down on this Notre Dame team, throughout the year in terms of this season. In terms of going forward, I still like Marcus Freeman. I still like the trend of the program. I think they'll need to, can they dip into the portal and, upgrade a quarterback or see what they can do there to kind of hasten the process? I think there'll be a team on the lookout. But yeah, they're just USC, and you mentioned it, like the USC defense. They're kind of making a little chicken salad in some of these games. They don't have great personnel. I mean, they loaded up in the portal on offense. They don't have great personnel on defense. I think that'll come to roost, as you said, in the college football playoff game when they're going against elite personnel on the other side of the ball. But they've been managing to just do enough to let the offense, kind of outscore teams in some of these games. So. Credit to them, and I think they're gonna. Yeah, as you said, I think they'll finish off the season there, hit the playoff, and what a year one for Riley. Even if they get jackhammered in a playoff game for Georgia, totally exceeded expectations year one.
Exceeded my expectations. I bet under their season win total.
Same.
As far as Notre Dame, I agree with you. I didn't even mind the performance on Saturday night while rewatching it. Drew Pine played well, but he had 2 turnovers. You can't be minus 2 turnovers. The fact that they're minus 2 turnovers and it was still somewhat a game says that they played hard and whatever. So, I think this will be the worst year under Marcus Freeman, which it should be in year one. They're not a USC. They didn't get 20 transfers. They can't get 20 transfers a year. They can get maybe 4 or 5. So take that under consideration. Mr. 618 worldwide in the chat. FanDuel in February took 500, 25-1. Holy hell, that's he's going to have a nice next Saturday night's going to be a good night to say the least.
Hopefully DM for that account info, because I don't know if I can get 500 on the app.
That account might get shut down. If he bet it in person, he's probably fine.
Yeah.
If that's on the app, he's in trouble. So that might be the last bet, or at least the last Heisman future he's going to bet at FanDuel, taking something like that. But kudos, that's great. At what will CW paint? Oh, yeah, it'd be funny. Is he gonna paint F Uga? Look at producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips.
The guy. Hey, don't. You're not gonna throw no curveballs past him. He's on top of it.
Yeah, he is. I will say this: that made the rounds. Caleb Williams has to come back another year. That will be a different Notre Dame team in South Bend next year. I'm not sure I would have done that. So. I know how I'd react if I was a Notre Dame guy. I don't know. I don't like, personally, Caleb Williams and the whole vibe. I'm not a big Lincoln Riley guy, so there might be also, even if it's your Michigan Wolverines, I kind of want USC to – they're a little too cocky for year one, to be honest, is what I'm saying. So that's just me as a fan. Let's talk another team that surprised. Big rivalry game. South Carolina gets an outright upset win as a double-digit underdog. Ends Clemson's 40-game home winning streak. You talk about program changer loss for Ohio State. I think that's kind of a program changing loss for Clemson. But more importantly, Shane Beamer, just 2-3 weeks ago, the fan base wanted to fire him. He beats Tennessee and Clemson. Now they want to build him a statue. It's funny how fickle the fan base is. But I did bet South Carolina. I'm really disappointed I didn't bet more on the game. I was, worried that maybe I was overreacting to one performance against Tennessee, but they're playing their best ball of the season. With that being said, this kind of transitions to a little bowl stuff. Looks like they lost their offensive coordinator. I'm sure he's not going to call the bowl game. Keep track of that, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, South Carolina, they're surging. They look at what they did the last 2 games. Who's calling plays in the bowl game? You lose the OC. Who's going to be out of there? So they are not a team that I'm necessarily looking to play on in the bowl game, but you got to be impressed on how they close the season, Knish.
It's like that Florida game, you're like, this team is dead. Like, this team is like given up. They quit. They're dead in the water. They didn't do anything. They get absolutely buried. And then they come back and, like a hammer Tennessee, which keeps Tennessee out of the playoff and hurts Joey K's, bankroll. They would have had, some nice matchups here. And Tennessee should have walked into this playoff. And then, as you said, like, this Clemson era, I don't know what they're going to, I don't know what they're going to do in the offseason. It's not the Dabo style to go outside of the realm of Clemson internally, want to keep everybody, but I mean something's got to change, because it's been ugly all year. It's a slog. I don't know if they're going. I watched North Carolina lose to back-to-back games to Georgia Tech here and North Carolina State with 4-string quarterbacks, and I was actually running to lay as much Clemson as I could in that game, and then Clemson loses to South Carolina the next day. ACC, woof. I will say that it is open for the taking. Be on the look. What Norvell's got going there at Florida State. You don't know. I think the Clemson era of dominance, as we said with Ohio, I will say Ohio State, I feel like, is even on a little bit more solid footing than Clemson, because it's they're the calling card. The defense, their secondary has been a disaster this entire year, and when they needed stops to win that game, they didn't get them. I don't know. What do you think? South Carolina going for, like, Beamer's recruiting? 2 weeks, as you said, 2 weeks ago I would have said, but I don't know. It's not like a program that has this, like, historic, great run of, so I don't know. I guess, now hopefully you can, switch a little, momentum here into the offseason, grab some recruits, and maybe what they can get going next year. I really don't know what to think of South Carolina going forward, as the Beamer era now has got like this shot of espresso to keep it going here and move into next year. JT
Moon in the chat: Clemson under 10.5 getting home was a blessing.
I
agree. It was. I was with him. I had that ticket. I forgot I had that ticket. I'm surprised I didn't throw that one out. That was plus money too if you shopped around. That was nice to get that. Trip Tepper in the chat: Tennessee 20-1 after the Georgia loss. Clemson 100-1. Yeah, Clemson 100-1. Going into even last week, there was a reasonable case that they could have made the playoff. It was a bad finish, and I'll agree with you that I think they've been propped up actually by the ACC. So a lot of these warts that they've had, even last year, that was a team that was probably, you put them in the SEC or Big Ten, they lose 6 games last year. They won a bunch of close games. It was a disappointing year, but they still got the 10-3. I just think I don't know if Dabo makes the changes after 1 year, because that's going to admit total failure, and I'm not sure that he's the guy that's going to admit that. But he needs to make changes at the both coordinator spots. Needs to hire from the outside. I'm not sure that'll do it. So, and I don't know. That one was bad, and we'll see. They got to figure out the quarterback position. DJ is not the guy. They got to get rid of him. I guess he'll be the guy this week. We'll get to that game. I'm in your shoes. I want to fade North Carolina, but now after watching Clemson, I'm not running to the window to bet them now. One more team I want to mention, and you could throw out any teams that you want. I know a lot of first-year coaches getting a lot of love, and deservedly so. The Sonny Dykes, the Lincoln Rileys of the world, even at the Group of Five, like a Jim Mora Jr. is getting a lot of love. Mike Elko from Duke. One guy that I think should get a little bit more praise, Jerry Kittle, New Mexico State. They get the 5 wins. That's a big deal for New Mexico State. And you want to talk about a disparate, high-variance final. How about winning outright by 35 points as a 24-point underdog? You want to talk about my biggest regret of last weekend, of all the games, was not betting New Mexico State. With all the Hugh Freeze stuff, I'd already seen Liberty lose back-to-back games as a double-digit favorite outright. How the hell was New Mexico State not my biggest bet of the weekend? Did you bet that game?
No, I agree with that. It was one of those, like, first quarter in, you're like, This was a miss because I agree. Hugh Freeze has I think he was spending most of the week at the negotiating table here, and it looks like I think as we were on here, I think it looks like it's gone official where he's taking the Auburn job. I know definitely a lightning rod of controversy, Mr. Freeze. There, yeah. So not only that, but he's apparently a big fan of the Twitter DMs. To some, like the guy, you think it'd be like an egg account that's DMing, but it's actually Hugh Freeze at midnight DMing you spam stuff if you've said negative things about him on Twitter. So interesting hire at an interesting place. So I'm not totally. I mean, the man can coach football. I agree with that. Comes with a lot of baggage. Comes with a lot of off-field stuff at a place that comes with a lot of complexity itself. So I don't know. I think he's a guy who he's gonna have to win a lot of football games. Because people, especially people that don't like him, he's not gonna. He's gonna have a very short leash because he's got a lot of stuff you can pile on with him publicly if it doesn't go well. So winning cures all, but he's gonna have to do a lot of it, and I don't think he's gonna have a lot of time. So it better happen for him, and it better happen quickly.
He's capable of it. I will say that guy does. I know the last 3 games haven't been good, but historically speaking, that guy does not only win football games, he covers football games among the best in college football. That being said, I like a couple of the other hires already at the top of college football more than that one. That one to me seems a little high variance. Were there any other performances that impressed you before we get to the negativity here?
I will say there was I got to give credit where credit is due there. Nebraska in a game that we talk another bet regret there that I saw 11 laying here, but what kept me, it was like, is Nebraska even going to show up to this game? They're not going bowling. They've got an interim coach. Like, maybe they just lay down here and get run over to go in there and to upset and to keep Iowa out of the champion. I mean, that is a horrendous loss for the Farron's crew there to where you have a home game versus a dead team walking to lose outright and not go to the Big Ten championship game. And you know what? In one of the as the divisions fade away in the Big Ten, if you're Iowa, you don't know when you're going to be back to that game, and it might be a long time. Yeah, it might be a very long time before you're in there. So to miss that opportunity at home, so give the kids at Nebraska some credit there for showing up. And Casey Thompson dealing with some type of nerve injury, like to show up there in a lost season and actually get the dub there was impressive effort there, and one that I regretted not taking the double digits because just on the surface I thought that line was ridiculous, but. Felt that Nebraska might not show up. Hey, they showed up, and not only that, but they got the dub. So impressive effort there to finish out the Mickey tenure there.
Yeah, maybe vibes are changing there. I mean, he gets announced basically, words breaking that he's going to be the coach, and all of a sudden, that's probably Nebraska's biggest win that they've had in the last 4 or 5 years, at least, since Scott Frost had been there winning outright as a double-digit underdog. Let's talk negativity. I'll start with one. My favorite dude in the whole wide world, Mr. Brian Kelly. Still a lot on the line for them heading into last week. There's still a decent pathway for them to even make the playoffs as a 2-loss team, and they laid an egg, to say the least, against Texas A&M. Personally speaking, I had a bet on LSU at the Westgate in the summer, plus 14.5, and that MFer went for 2. And didn't get it and lost by 15. 24.5.
You said that you weren't going to go 4-0 on those. And there's always one that's got to come in. And
it took, we'll talk about the other loser from the Game of the Year bets here in a little bit, but it took almost an act of God to lose them. But, that's why when you hear locks, it doesn't get any more locked than, hey, I'm going to give you 24.5 points of line value, and you still don't freaking win. So, and a team that you would think, motivation's not a question mark. That they should be motivated, hell, and they lose. I also think it's, you would say, good look for A&M. I would say bad look for A&M. Well, where was that team all year? We saw them, against Alabama and LSU, they look like a top 5, top 10 team. Don't see it the rest of the year. So I mean, I guess kudos that they didn't quit on the season, but I mean, I just can't believe you don't see that at least on a consistent basis from A&M. So it was more of a big thumbs down arrow for LSU. We'll talk more about that. Also, in that 2-point conversion, he got his quarterback hurt. So that one, I'll just say this: it's a typical Brian Kelly, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that might be one that we have a little disagreement on this championship weekend. A little hit the books head to head here, in the SEC title game. But I mean, you saw like what A&M has fit the bill for these last years, like the Muhammad kid, the talent that he has. Stewart. I mean, they're not short. It's been short on common sense coaching and play calling this year. They're definitely not short on unless they're. I mean, he was suspended, a week ago for like wearing an arm. So, I mean, it's still. I hope that for some of the Aggie fans' sake that that win doesn't change some of the changes that need to be made there in the offseason. But I think a new offensive coordinator could come in there and really, as long as they don't lose, half the team to the portal, could really come in there and make some quick changes and have them, a very productive unit next year, because they're not short on talent. They're, just short on scheme stuff. So depending on, when we talk, I mean, I'm sure we'll do a lot of off-season stuff. That might be a team, if they make the right chess moves in the offseason, would be a buy on next year for a lot of the talent that they have that just needs to be, cultivated a little bit more. And, I think they need one culture hire to be, an associate head coach for Jimbo, and one offensive coordinator hire, and they can turn it around real fast. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see what the Ags do here in the offseason. But I think Mr. Kelly is in for a rude awakening come Saturday. So when we get to that game, I think we might have a little disparity with you and Mr. Muscles there that already gave that out, because I'll be on the other side of that one. I am on the other side of that one already. At a few numbers.
So you're the reason it's moving. All right, we'll talk more about that SEC championship game in a second. I want to get your thoughts on this. Oregon blows a big lead against Oregon State. Oregon State finishes, I believe, 10-2 against the spread, and we'll talk about a terrible team against the spread here in a second. But kudos for Oregon State. To me, it was more negative Oregon with that kind of a lead in a rivalry game. Still a lot to play for. I mean, they win. They're playing for the Pac-12 championship game this week. And I actually would have liked them against SC. I think I would have bet Oregon in that game. I want your thoughts on this. I'm probably a little bit more old school than other guys at my age. I like analytics. I'm not in love with analytics. Are you going for it on 4th and 1 inside your own 30-yard line? I'm not. I'm just telling you, I'm not.
In the style of game that was being in play, I'm okay with it. I think when you miss that one, it stings, and then you get the hey, listen, you gotta take the bullet when you're gonna coach like that. You're gonna have to stand up there in the presser and take the heat. I agree with you. I thought it's a big missed opportunity for Oregon, because I think they were top to bottom probably the most talented team in the Pac-12.
Agree.
And a game that I agree with you. I would have fancied them versus USC in the Pac-12 title game, and then their offense, which I thought was a bit strange, that 30 minutes after the game, their offensive coordinator leaves, and then the next day he's on a flight to Arizona State, so he wouldn't even have been their OC in this. Would have even been coached in the Pac-12 title game. So yeah, I was hey, it was a bad 24 hours if you're a Ducks fan there. So again,
what's the story with Dante Moore? Is he going to Michigan now?
Listen, I think Michigan has zeroed in on the another fight in the 24 cycle, Mr. Jaden Davis, who's a 5-star kid. So I think they're going that route. Does Dante Moore open it up? I honestly, I hope, because I think he'll be fun in that offense. He's a kid. I think he's better than we'll get this is in the weeds, but I think he's better than Arch Manning. He's one of the best prospects to come from Michigan since I've been following recruiting since I was a young Joey K. So yeah, I don't know. Listen. And Dante Moore, he needs to be in that Oregon offense. I mean, listen, would I love him at Michigan? Sure. But I think in that, what they're running at Oregon fits his skill set a little bit more. So, yeah, again, Oregon, a program on the trend. I know Dave Mason went. They give us the Joey K price at a different, price inflation there, and Oregon chokes it at the end there. So, listen. I think Oregon, again, like we talked about with Notre Dame, I think Oregon will be fine. They're recruiting well. They got the Phil Knight money coming in. they'll be okay going forward, but huge missed opportunity there for a team that, probably should have won the Pac-12 this year and made the playoffs. So yeah, that's one that stings. And Oregon, I got some guys I bet with that Ben Goldberson kid. Some guys I bet with to give me shit because I always talk. I like when he came in, I was like, oh, this guy's a bum. He's no somehow he like all they did when he was quarterback is cover every single freaking game. Like I don't think he's any good, but he came in there and the team wouldn't can't lose a game against the spread. So credit to him, credit to Oregon State. That's a nice win versus a team there that I think as we talked about with Ohio State in the second half, when it started getting close, they got tight and then they blew it. I think Oregon did the same there in that second half. It was rowdy there and nice win for the Beavs.
Yeah, punter dropped a snap. That was tight.
Yep.
I thought again. I just thought after the Washington game backfired, he doesn't do it again. But I guess you should tip the cap to him that he would make that same decision. I'm not doing it. I mean, I just make a stop. I mean, Go Branson's not that good. Yeah, I see why the betting groups watching him. I can see why the betting groups don't like him. But, I mean, it also makes prices relatively cheap on Oregon State. With that being said, in that particular game, Oregon State took a hell of a lot of money, closed favorite.
Yeah,
I mean, a ton of late money on the Beavers now and looked dead in the water when they were down 3 scores there in the fourth quarter. Speaking of dead in the water, I'll get to this quickly. I mean, Miami week after week. We could have done this segment every single week all year. Miami, one of the worst ATS performances I've ever seen.
They go 1-10. Got steamed again on game day.
They did.
They moved from 6 to 4. That's real money. I can't.
What group it is? Because I don't know what group that is.
I don't know. I don't know who's bad. I have no idea. I actually was thinking about laying some 6.5 with Pitt. I never did it. I actually was out of pocket. I ran out when the game was closing there, and then I get back and I see it close 4. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, I would have bet some 4, but I wasn't expecting. If anything, I thought it was going to close 7 or go across. That closes 4. And I get another just miserable performance there. For a miserable, nobody goes to those games. They're playing in front of nobody. I don't know. I mean, that's one of those where you look at some of the, and again, NIL people. I'm all for kids making money, all pro. But some of the toxicity that's creeped into these programs that have gone all in with the NIL early, A&M and Miami. And you get kids there that are just collecting a bag, and the season starts going wrong, and they have there's no football culture, there's no buy-in, there's no nothing. These kids, they're not playing in front of anybody, and they're just not showing up for the second half of the season. And it doesn't matter, and that's where, when people who are, controlling the market and that, and you're looking at some of the numbers, and you might, from a talent perspective and a recruiting perspective and priors, you might see value in this team, but they didn't show up for the last half of the season, any game. And so, just an embarrassing display. I don't know what they're going to bring back Cristobal and maybe Gaddis too for year 2 because they paid him so much money, but that might be one that if they don't see early improvement, somebody might be cutting a big check there to get rid of, because that is just
the money.
I don't know. I don't know. Whoever that, I know a Bone Big Booster. I know he's got they might have somebody.
But he loves. They're best buddies. He's not gonna. I doubt he cuts the check to get rid of his best buddy.
I agree with you. But I mean, if they don't start out just after this year, it doesn't get more embarrassing than what they put on the field. So I don't know. I don't know what Miami. If it goes bad next year, I'm not sure what Miami's doing.
Yeah, Mickey Hill in the chat. Miami lower than 10 points a game. Yeah, they did. Almost 12.5 points per game.
That is. I mean, against ACC defenses in the Coastal is unspeakably bad.
Yep. I mean, there's not one thing you could hang your hat on for Miami. Not one thing that you're like, I'm happy. I guess the recruiting class coming in. But again, when you're a bunch of paid mercenaries and you're handing bags to 17, 18-year-old kids and you're in South Beach, I don't know if that's going to work out in the long run. That's just me. That is not the city I want to hand somebody a ton of cash if they're 18. They'll have fun, though.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Like
I wish they would have done it for Joey. I was 18, but no, if I'm trying to build a winning football program, the early returns on teams that are just doing this pay for play stuff to get talent in is not looking like the way to build a football program.
One last game I want to get to. It hits home. Kind of went viral. I didn't know my misery would. I think it was my most popular tweet of the year.
All
It's just me and my
all
sorrows.
timer.
Friday, because you brought it up. Remember on this show last week, you asked me Utah State. And I said, I kind of bet Boise State. I think the line's going to go up. It did go up. But then it not only got to 17, that was kind of like, okay, I could buy back Utah State. I got word that Boise State was going to have several starters out. Was not priced in at all in the market. So I ended up going in heavy on Utah State. It was my biggest bet on Friday. And I'll tell you, I no exaggeration. And when we talk bad beats, and I know people say every week bad beat of the year and all this stuff, this one is like legitimately one of the worst beats of all time. When you have a 17-point underdog and there's 90 seconds left and they legitimately have a shot to win the game outright, and they're at the 10-yard line going in, with the possibility of scoring to go up, and you don't cover the spread. And what happened? Boise State could have maybe taken a knee. I know the timeout situation, maybe they left a few seconds left, but you get a 90-yard touchdown run by the quarterback, and then you just knew the pick six was coming. I even tweeted it before it happened. I'm like, pick six coming here. We're going to lose this thing, and you get a pick six. So I don't know how you don't cover that one. That one hurt bad. Did you end up betting it?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't get a huge play down, but I did ended up playing some Utah State at post. And was one agree like you're like, oh my God, they're gonna win this thing. And it's not even like you would have expected if it's a 90-yard pick six there, but to turn it over and they're like, oh well, and get a zone read where the QB goes 90 yards. It's like one first down, and Boise State just kneels it out. He goes all the way, and then as you said there, like, okay, it was in the zone where like they get that quarterback is prone for interceptions. They still think they can score twice. They're gonna win. So yeah, you try and be numb to it at this point, but that was one where it was just, I think I was more like in shock and awe than tilted, because it was just, it seemed impossible. I was like looking at Gamecast, like, I put it on because I thought they had a shot to win the game. Like, put it on. I was like, but Utah State might win outright here. And then, I regret putting it on.
Any other games catch your eye from the weekend you want to mention?
I will say that there was where we were going in the Sun Belt there. Southern Miss, you had a best bet there. I agree with I agree with you. Played some Southern Miss. That was I don't think I talked with some people. I don't think the market had priced in properly Trey Lowe and the upgrade that he provided at quarterback, and that is a team that I think
in the bowl game.
Play on in the bowl game, maybe a play on next year. The other Sun Belt thing I had, I love these press conferences, and that is the James Madison just hammering Coastal.
Yeah.
Should have won the division, whatever these stupid rules are where you can't make the championship. Plus 177 point differential for James Madison in the conference. Coastal Carolina plus 7. So they outscored that by 170 points to the good in the point differential. Beat them by 40, and Coastal still goes to the title game there. So props to James Madison, who was the best team in the Sun Belt this year and should be going to the title game to beat Troy's ass and win the belt this year in year one. I think they'll have eligibility next year.
I hope so.
Yeah, that is a program that is going to be the belt holder and then the cream of the crop in the Sun Belt. Is already and will be the champion very soon.
They really exceed my expectations. I thought I was getting an easy season win total bet under 7.5 wins. I lose. So, but also think of how great they've looked all year. They still went 8-3. So I thought 7.5 was almost like stealing money, and here I am getting beat there on a season win total best bet. Kudos, James Madison. We'll talk that game here in a second. Let's talk championship games. I think we can blow through some of these relatively quickly. Utah, USC, right here in Vegas. I'm not sure I'm going to go. The tickets are ridiculous, and I hate people and the parking situation. I'll tell you, if you have never got here for Allegiant Stadium, let me give you a little heads up. Number one, the stadium is awesome. I mean, it's a world-class facility, one of the best football stadiums in the country. The parking situation is as bad as any. Be walking, and it's not a great part of town to be walking in, especially at night. So just letting you know for that. But regardless, SC Utah, I made a lot of bets on the openers at Circa and some of the other places on Sunday. Did not bet this one. Probably hindsight should have laid 2.5, 2. It was close to my power ratings. I'm not surprised that it's sitting here at 3. I know you're going to be pounding, revenge, SC, and all that. I would probably play a little Utah if it got to 3.5. That would probably be my preference here.
Yeah, I actually this opened at some of the peasant books lower. I played some pick and some -1, and then the
oh wow,
yeah, the big dogs at Circa came in at 3, and then now the market's shifted to 3, and I thought 3 was the right number, and where but again I agreed with where they posted it, and the whole market reverted to that, but I agree with you. If it creeps across 3, then you could tell me on some Utah. But at this point, I think the number's fair. Slightly into the under on the total, but I haven't actually bet any total there. So the only thing I had there was a couple of early shots at pick and -1. I think USC wins the game, but I'm not laying the full 3 there at current.
Let me sneak this game in here. It's the one game that's not a championship game. Did you bet anything Buffalo Akron? I can say this. I took 14 on Akron.
I did not, and I know some people that I know you got the 14. I know some sharp people that bet 13.5. I didn't partake. I can't blame people for after Akron's performance of Buffalo. Totally choking against Kent State. But this one I think is another one that kind of I would say the numbers gotten away a little bit if you wanted to play the Akron side.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that Buffalo. I mean, it wasn't as bad of a beat as Utah State, but I bet Buffalo, one of my favorite plays last week.
Yep.
They were up 14, kicking a chip shot field goal, go up 17. We're talking it's midway through the fourth quarter and going to be 27-10. And Kent State hadn't done anything. Colin Schlee plays. I'm thinking, I'm fucked. No, he's not bad. He really isn't that healthy. He gets yanked. They're playing 3-4 different guys at quarterback. Can't do nothing. And somehow they score 2 touchdowns late in the fourth quarter, get to overtime, and the winner turns into a loser.
I think we had some of the same info there that Schlee was either not going to play or was not healthy, and he was not healthy. And then they put in that one backup who was like just absolutely miserable, and you're thinking it's going to be a layup win, and then some other guy I don't even know. It got past the point of the roster. I could even figure who was playing quarterback there, but whoever that was led him to 2 late touchdowns, and that one hurt because I had a large position on Buffalo there as well. So a couple of rough ones to end the regular season there.
It was. Let's talk. I'm interested in this one. This is the first championship game on Saturday. A lot of playoff implications, obviously, with TCU unbeaten. This is one where I am not taking a strong position on the side yet. I do want Kansas State, but I'm waiting to see that 3 pop. I think Kansas State's the sharper of the 2 sides. It's just me personally. I bet Kansas State in the first matchup. I thought I had the right side, and maybe still even win if Will Howard does it. He doesn't start the game. It's supposed to be Adrian Martinez, and then obviously Martinez goes out. Will Howard's fine. Then he gets banged up, and then it's a third-string quarterback, and somehow Kansas State blows the big lead there. Will Howard's been playing well, to say the least. I just need 3 here to fade TCU with all the playoff pressure in the world on them. Have you bet this one yet?
I haven't bet this yet. This one, I am going back and forth in this one, and I tend to, TCU, this is I believe the 11th straight week that they'll be playing. And obviously a lot of those high leverage, high pressure, close games. And the thing I would say, when we bet Kansas State, obviously, we were both on, which was a tough beat early in the year, I think that line was over, around a touchdown, over a touchdown, something in that realm. I can't remember that. I have to look back in the sheet there.
It closed like in the 4 range, though.
Okay.
4.5.
I think we were betting around 6 or 7, early in the week, and that issue I would have here is now, it's in Arlington, Texas. Obviously, we're playing a much lower price. I agree. The number, though, for me is pretty spot on. And it's one of those situations where I think TCU got super fortunate early in the season, but has now kind of, especially the last few weeks, kind of been elevating their level of play. And so the whole, I can say that they got fortunate with some QB injuries, but I think they're playing significant, especially on defense, playing significantly better football than they were early in the season. So I would agree. I think if this got to, I don't know if it'll get to 3. If it got to 3, that would be the number I would need to play Kansas State. Got some TCU, futures from preseason that's sitting on there.
You do?
Yeah. This is one that.
How big?
And so, I got it's 30-1, but I wasn't able to get a ton down on it. So I think it's one that I might just kind of sit back and see here, kind of where it goes. But I agree, I would need 3 to play it. Otherwise, it's kind of in the pass range for me right now.
Yeah, line closed 3.5. Producer Zach Phillips bringing up. Remember, we're sponsored by Circa Sports. Also, hit the like and subscribe button if you can, if you like the show. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see 3. I think people are probably in a similar spot as us. Yeah. It pops. It'll probably get taken away. We'll see what happens game day as the limits really open up. Not everybody's Circa when it comes to limits. Did you do anything in the total? I did bet under 63. You mentioned TCU's improved play defensively. I do like what I'm seeing there. So I did play a little under 63. Did you do anything with the total?
I haven't bet, but you know what? Actually, I think as soon as we were out, I'm probably going to join in that. I was I didn't get in early on the 63, but I still like the I think Circa's trading right now 62.5 looks like the best number around there. So
sometimes that concerns me when Circa's hanging a number nobody else is. Remember, that's the sharper book. I mean, it's almost like the old penny lean. I'm not always anxious to go against that. I mean, especially, they opened up on the big conference championship games. Did you see that 40,000 on sides? That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
and then
that was
about guys like myself. Oh, you're betting early. I mean, I'm not a guy that's betting. Knish is betting that kind of money. I'm not. But you gotta wait. You gotta wait, dude. If you can't get down on Sunday, there's something wrong with you. You can get down not only at Circa but at other books. On a Sunday night, you can get well into 5 figures down on these games. And for you, those of you who are saying, well, I need to get 6 figures, I'll believe it when I see it. You're not on Twitter. I'm telling you, if you're betting 6 figures. Why do I matter? It was something like that. A couple in the chat here. Cameron Pfeiffer, I've got Kansas State 50-1 to sweat. That's one where I probably hedge a little bit. Maybe a little bit. It depends if it's life-changing money or it depends on who you like this week. But that's one maybe I take a little bit back on the hedge. JT Moon, I have TCU 12-1. Need to get the 3, ideally 3.5. Yeah, I would agree with that one. And again, when it comes to hedging, I just tell people if it's life-changing money, don't hedge. If it's not life-changing money, don't hedge. If it is, then hedge a little bit back. But I'm not a big hedge guy anymore. I just, whatever my position is, it is. What will be, will be. Let's talk another big game. The game that you and I are head-to-head on here. I'm guessing maybe you got inside info that I don't have. We're talking the SEC championship game. LSU against Georgia. Georgia's taking money in the market. I had no interest early on. I had no interest really in the game last week when it was trading 15 at a lot of books, 16 at a lot of books. No interest even early Sunday. Circa did open up a little bit higher, and then some of the other steam. The first steam, I should say, was coming in at Circa. Maybe it's Knish and his betting syndicate steamed that up to 17.5. At 17.5 is when I start getting interested in LSU. But you're going to tell me that I'm way out of line, that Jaden Daniels is hurt more than they're leading into here. He's in a walking boot as we're taping this on Monday. I think Tuesday will be the day where we get more definitive response if the boot comes off, if he practices or whatnot. You're on Georgia, and you like Georgia, and you've already taken a position, I take it.
Yes, I'm on Georgia. I like Georgia. I've taken a position on Georgia. I actually, I'm watching that, and this is a game that's been posted at a lot of places for a few weeks now because it's been been finalized. So, when I saw that initial Daniels hit, I was like, started shopping around. And so the second one, I'll give listen, I'll give that kid all the credit in the world for coming back. First of all, what the fuck is Brian Kelly doing? They're down 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
The guy's already taken a shot. You got him back out there, drive with like a minute to go, down 3 scores, and he takes another hit. I can't believe he got up from the second one. Again, now, kid's tough as shit. I'll give him credit. I assume he'll try to attempt to play here. The thing for me is, though, a large part of their offense is based on Jaden Daniels running the ball, RPOs, elusivity. Like, if he can't run, I think, to me, that's worth, at least a point and a half, 2 points there in terms of his overall ability to perform at that level. And it was a Georgia side that I was already leaning towards anyway. Factor in, I think LSU, again, great run, great first-year coach. I think they've been playing over their head for a little bit, and it's a game where, Georgia's played down to some competition this year. They've kind of, played a little bit to, some teams where you've seen them against games where they've kind of been very vanilla in that. When they've gone up against the big dogs that they played on the schedule, they've taken it to them. And honestly, I think this is one, especially if Jaden Daniels is not going to be close to 100%, that it's going to be very hard for LSU to move the football. I think the match is better. So this is one, again, I was laying, and again, I know it's steamed up now. I was laying some 15, some 15 and a half, some 16. Now it looks like mostly everybody's kind of crossed over the 17, even Circa's at 18 right now.
Yeah.
If you got a flat 17 available, I think I'd still play that. It'd be my cutoff point. But yeah, I like Georgia. I'm on it for a pretty sizable position between 14 and a half and 16. So I think they take care of business here. And the Jaden, I can't believe after what I saw Saturday that he's going to come into this game and be close to 100%. And he's not an efficient passer to begin with. Not a guy who's going to be able to stand in the quarterback and stand in the pocket and pick you apart. So for me, that was what I needed to see there to lay Georgia. So yeah, I think this is all dogs in this one.
So let me ask you this, because this is what I don't understand. There shouldn't be a lot of sophistication in the market with only 10, 12 games.
Yep.
Why are we seeing over money? If LSU is compromised offensively, Circa opened 48.5 that total. That's actually closer to where I have it. Why are we seeing over money then? If LSU's compromised offensively, why over money? I'm not saying that it might not just make not any sense.
Last time I checked, 56-0 goes over 51.
Fair enough. Well,
I agree. Like, I honestly, I thought one of the sharp totals guys I know made it 50. So I agree. Like, when it crossed, it was 50. I think there's a smattering of 51.5 out there. I lean, under there now that it's crossing 51. But I tend to agree with you. I'm a little conflicted, total wise here. I think it's about fair for me. Now if you're getting some 51.5 and 52, then I consider back. But yeah, I would say that hey, I think you'll see Georgia open it up a little bit in terms of the offense, the offensive playbook. So we'll see. And you know what? Hey, LSU, I gotta give them. They're gonna try and take their shots there. So I give Brian Kelly. I don't think they'll be afraid to try and open up and say test Georgia's defense there. Though I just without Jaden Daniels being at 100%, I think it's gonna be a tough deal for him.
I'll say this: if you are indeed correct, I don't care what the Jaden Daniels injury situation is. Right, the locals will not be pleased if they get crushed by that type of margin. And Brian Kelly, will see what it's like on a little bit of a pressure cooker there. And by all intents and purposes, exceeded expectations. But you lose a couple games in a row and you get embarrassed in the championship game, people he'll get the brunt of it more like what he was after the Tennessee game. Let's talk Purdue, Michigan, and as we're taping this.
Yeah, I was just about to say, the Big Blue Steam coming in.
Big Blue Steam, and obviously the leading indicator would be Circa Sports. We're not just saying that because they're the sponsor. That's just when they get hit, the market tends to copy. And here we are, Circa, first 17 that I've seen so far this week on this one. Michigan, the big favorite here, coming off the big win against the Buckeyes. Some of them, Aiden O'Connell's not with the team right now. I saw that. He's dealing with some personal matters. He's expected to play, but if you're not with the team, you're not practicing. And a lot of times, what shows game day, everyone's playing tough because if in the game of football, if you're not playing, you're not giving it all, you get hurt. It's in the preparation where do you give it all? Are you there? Are you checked in? Are you checked out? And if he's not there, he's dealing with a personal matter. I'm not betting Purdue. Here's what I did bet. I bet over 50. There's just a rogue number. I lean that way because I think Michigan, now that the cat's out of the bag offensively and people have seen him throw it down the field, why don't you throw it down the field again this week? That's just my thought process.
Yeah, this was one I thought the number would be around 17. Some places were even, there was some rogue like 14 and a half very early, but I will say the caution I would have against Michigan is it's still a team that's banged up at a few key positions. I mean, I would say their best player on offense, Blake Corum, and their best player on defense, their best pass rusher, Mike Morris, basically didn't play versus Ohio State. I think they each played a handful of snaps. I'm not optimistic on Corum's status this week. But again, the Donovan Edwards thing, I don't think Ohio State was totally ready for the fact that, he was carrying the ball in his offhand. He couldn't catch the ball. So I think Purdue will have a little bit of a, better preparation for that. However, it's just a Purdue, this is a game that if Michigan was playing Illinois, who should have won the Big Ten West, who was the best team in the Big Ten West, that I would have some more, I think they'd be in a more, it's just a Purdue team that, it's weird. It was a dead nuts over team to start the year, and they were doing their high flying passing offense. In the second half of the year, they've been playing some lesser opponents. The offenses, they've kind of run the ball more. They've struggled a little bit. They've played some lesser opponents on offense. They've been like a dead nuts under team for the last month here, but a lot of that's opponent driven. I would agree with you in the indoor. I think you'll see, last year in the Big Ten championship game, Michigan, now they were kind of letting the bag out there, letting it fly, some trick plays, and that Harbaugh is one that, as we know, he ain't taking the foot off the gas at any point, in these games there. So I thought 17 was about fair. Now that, the 17s look like they're popping a few places. If I was going to bet Purdue, I'd kind of be waiting for more of this. I think you can get. I think there will be a 17 and a half, maybe even 18 in the market at some point this week. So if you're going to be on Purdue, let it marinate there and see what happens. If you want Michigan, you probably need to run and grab one of the last few 16 remainings.
Agree with everything you said. I need at least 17 and a half on Purdue just to get the interest. And even then, I don't know if it's best bet material for me. Let's go to a game. I'm not sure that we're going to have much on this one. We're going to have to come up with a best bet at the end of this. I'm guessing we'll probably lean more towards the Group of 5 championship games. I'll bet Clemson at 7. Right now, I don't know what the frame of mind of either team. I think both teams are play against teams. I think the Pac-12 has gotten the brunt of being the worst Power 5 conference among the last 5 years. I think the ACC is the worst Power 5 conference by far this year. I don't know. I want to bet against both teams, but if you give me a 7, I'll lay the 7 with Clemson. We've seen a little bit of money on North Carolina, so maybe that's the case. As of right now, I do not have a bet, and I made about 15 bets on Sunday. This was not one of them, side or total.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, this is one that, like, when North Carolina, when I saw they were about to lose to NC State and just their overall state of how they played, I bought up as much Clemson 7 as I could.
There you go.
And then Clemson I see they're losing to South Carolina, and I shaved off a sizable portion of that 7 position because I figured it'd be coming back down. So I do have some, still some liability on the Clemson -7. Maybe this is I'm falling for the Clemson fool's gold too many times here, but Again, flat 7, I agree with you. That would be the side I want there. A North Carolina team that soft in the trenches. At some point, you would hope that Clemson can hit a few plays and get something together offensive. I will say that the secondary
6.5. Look at that.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. You want to cross? I might say, hey, as soon as Zach gets done here, I'll send him for a coffee there at the local Timmy Ho's and get a few for Poline tickets. But that would be the only side I'd say for me. But other than that, I don't have a strong inkling on this game. It'd be two teams if they were playing other teams I'd love to fade one more time. But unfortunately, they're playing each other.
Stephen Robinson in the chat. This actually reminds me. I have so many bets. I gotta remind myself sometimes what my portfolio is. Stephen Robinson sitting on North Carolina 25-1 to win the ACC. Only ACC future. Yeah, I mean, I have North Carolina 30-1. The problem is I got a bigger position now that I remember. Circa opened Clemson plus 140, and that was my biggest conference future bet that I made. So I think I'm just gonna sit that. I don't know what the recommendation is there. Just again, depends. Life-changing money, maybe hedge a little bit. If not, let it ride on that one. Did you have anything futures? I should ask. Just do you have any big futures? You mentioned TCU. Are there any other big futures you got coming into this weekend?
The biggest one I have by far is Tulane.
Let's
and
talk
it's
about
actually
that one,
one of our one of the positions I have is actually at Circa Sports. They had a early in the season like a 66-1 and then actually like literally 2 weeks ago added some more at 650. So sizable win amount there on Tulane. So that's the biggest one I've got going this week. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, I'm not a big hedge guy at this point. When I was younger, lower bankroll, I did more of that stuff. I agree with you in the life-changing money thing. But at this point, bet so much future stuff most of the time.
Yeah.
I just let it ride. The only, I would say the only scenario where I don't adhere is when I actually think like the other side has value, or I generally I think I'm making a plus EV bet on the other side of a future. I'm not just doing it just to do it or scrape up pop. I'm only doing it if I think there's value on the other side, or a relative chance to hit both bets there. So I agree. I don't got much else in the ACC title game. I see the overs taking a little bit of money up. It's another one that again I would have some of that 60.5, 61 that opened out there. I would have liked that. 63.5 now. I think it's pretty baked in.
Agree on that total. Tulane, UCF, are you part of the? I did bet a little bit. Tulane 2.5. I will say, obviously, a rematch here. I liked UCF quite a bit in the earlier matchup. That line closed 1. Tulane a 1 point home favorite. Haven't liked what I've seen from UCF since that game the last couple of weeks. You gotta like what you've seen from Tulane. They've taken very sharp money. I thought they were probably one of the sharper bets last week as far as betting groups betting on them in the Cincinnati game. Some of it was the quarterback situation for Cincinnati, but Willie Fritz is a good coach, maybe even a great coach. He did interview for the Georgia Tech job.
I was going to say maybe even Georgia Tech's coach as about tonight. We'll see.
Yeah, that would worry me. I'm going to check news on that, because if you're telling me, he's got 1 foot out the door and I can get 3.5 on UCF, I'm going to lean that way. That would be my lean here, even though I already took a position before I even knew any of the head coaching stuff early on Sunday. I did lay 2.5, but again, if you're telling me he's interviewing for jobs, again, I mean, it's such a short week. If you're doing other things for part of the week, I mean, I just know how I am. If I miss a few hours in a preparation of a college football week, I feel like I'm behind, and it's just that you're not getting my A+ effort. So I don't know. We'll see on that one. You got a position on this one yet?
Obviously, so I don't, obviously the future position, I'm kind of waiting to see. I figured the market would tick up. I don't think Plumlee's going to play. I mean, I watched the UCF game.
Do you think Keene's that big of a downgrade? I personally don't.
It's fair. I would say, I don't think he's a huge downgrade, but
yeah.
I would say, he looked like he pulled the hammy. He's a guy that needs the explosive running ability to go in there.
Point.
Keene, obviously, a little different type. I don't think he's a huge downgrade. He gives them maybe even a little bit more in the passing, if not as much, run explosiveness, a little bit more in the passing game. So it kind of changes the way they play a little bit. I would say without the Willie Fritz stuff, I'd be a little bit more bullish on. I agree that bothers me a touch. I think if this, it looks like it's crossed 3 at a few places. I will probably take, a portion back of some 3.5. Hopefully, I'd love to get a 4 there, a portion back just to have, a middle oppo here. I like, Central Florida there. I think this line 2.5, 3 is about fair. So some 3.5 or even if a 4 pops, or I can, get Mr. Phillips down to the 4.5 at pro line there. That I'll probably
looks like he's making
somewhat of a He's gonna. I'm gonna have to get him some of that funny, a nice bag of funny Canadian money there to get him down there. He's gonna be spending all night driving coffee shops. But yeah, I think at some point, if this keeps going, we'll have a UCF position, but we'll be mostly praying for the Green Wave to finish her off here. And that's why it's another total one that I thought even the Circa number opened up with 55. It's kind of this one is one that there was quite a discrepancy in the market that it was mostly 58. And the Circa comes in at 55. It levels out here 56, 57. Which I think is about fair, but I think this will be mostly a rooting interest, future rooting interest run for me.
Before I get to another couple conference championship games before we get out of here, Trip Tepper asking about FCS futures that have value. I'm looking at the bracket. I do bet FCS quite a bit.
I took a so one number is not available, one number that is still. There was some a certain legal opened up a North Dakota State at like 12-1.
That was good.
Bet as much as I could on that. The other one is still available. Some South Dakota State. It was some plus 225 was the best number I found there to get down on. I still think 2-1 has value. I think they've got a reasonably easy path to the championship game there. They should be about a 2 TD favorite this week. So and then going forward, I think they've got the Montana State Weber winner. So I think South Dakota State still even though it's the shortest number, I think a 2-1 or better still has some value there. Outside of that, it's going to be, even if you can find, I'm not sure, I haven't shopped it this week because I already got down on it, but North Dakota State, that's like, I think there's still some 7 at the best price out there. I would bet that. They are again, it's not your brothers, or the brothers North Dakota State team. Not one of their elite teams, but they're going to be playing in the Fargo Dome up until the semi, and like, People just don't go in there and win. Like I don't remember. I'd have to look back.
North Dakota State does.
Yeah, well, one team does, and they wouldn't play him until the final on a neutral. So that's a tough one for I think anybody to beat. So I think there's still some. I think the best bet on the board though is the Chalks because it's the best team. They're playing at home throughout. They've got a light side of the bracket. So I think South Dakota State 2-1 or better is worth a bet.
Agree with that. To me, those would be the two futures that I would be interested in. They're still the top 2 teams power rating, and man, FCS don't overcomplicate things. I mean, they got bigger, stronger guys up front. It's old school. Reminds me of the football I grew up with. It's very old school Big Ten football. The teams that win at that top level. North Dakota State being the top program, but South Dakota State's been just as good as North Dakota State. They haven't won the title yet. They should have probably a couple years ago. Something tells me that they could win it this year. So agree with that. Let's talk a couple more championship games. Did you bet anything in the Conference USA? It's another rematch from earlier this year. The line's a little cheaper than what it was earlier this year. You had UTSA originally favored in that earlier matchup by about 11. Now they're laying 8.5. Although in that game, North Texas outplayed them in that game. Could have actually won the game outright. UTSA had to come back and score a late touchdown. I'll be honest with you. I bet a lot of sides and totals. I did not bet the side and total in this one yet. I could maybe be talked to an under maybe, but I don't know. I just haven't bet this one. Have you?
I actually bet this at our show sponsor, Circa Sports, yesterday. They had 65 and a half. I took over. We made it, about, my totals guy that had 68 and a half, so played over 65 and a half. Not a huge edge or anything. But got what I could there in 65 and a half. The side, I haven't bet it yet. Some guy, a little bit of a discrepancy with some of the guys I bet with. I like North Texas. Haven't filled the position yet. Again, it won't be anything, best bet banger material or any of that, but I'm going to have a North Texas play in this game. It'll be a small position, but I like them getting over a touchdown there. It's just, I think it's a team to me that's kind of, exceeded expectations all year. And I think, more around touchdowns fair in this game. So I'll play. It'll be a small North Texas play for me.
I can see it. To me, it's just a lay 7, take 10. It's right in the middle. I'm not really interested. with it being in the middle. Game I was interested in, I took Ohio in the MAC championship game. I bet plus 4.5. I bet plus 3.5. What happens? Circa then opens their numbers later. They have a much sharper number. They're below 3 market copies, and then yet we've seen even more money come in Ohio here. And I get it, Ohio's with a backup quarterback. I just do not like what I've seen from Toledo. I know going back an hour ago in the chat, somebody said bring up Toledo. I was going to bring him up for the MAC championship game. I think Jason Candle is one of the worst coaches in college football as far as what he does with what he has, meaning nobody does less with more than Jason Candle. I lost another fucking season win total bet with them. I mean, they're favored in 11 games. He only wins 7. And, I mean, it was a 95+% bet with 2 weeks left. They lose outright as a double-digit favorite each of the last 2 games and go 7-5. Second year in a row I've lost on. I'm not betting him next year. I don't care if there's a 2-win discrepancy in my season win total. If Jason Candle is a coach at Toledo, I'm not betting over the season win total. I'm not. That's 2 years in a row that my numbers have said Toledo best season win total bet in the market in the offseason. And, it pretty much plays out that way when you look at a per game line basis. And then they've lost 7 games as a touchdown plus favorite, 7 outright the last 2 years. I mean, I hope they lose. Ohio hasn't won the MAC since 1968. I hope they win.
Is that true?
I wish Solich could have been the guy to get them there.
68?
They have not won it since 1968. That's tough to do.
I would have lost a lot of money on that trivia question. If you would have gave me over under 25 years or whatever, I would have took it. Wow. I agree with your play there at the numbers you got it at. I had some Ohio futures, so I didn't want to add on too much to them as a dog here. Yeah. The only trepidation I would have here is I think they would have buried this Toledo team if Curtis Rourke was at quarterback.
I agree.
It'd be one that I would have played pick even Ohio as a small with Rourke at quarterback. The concern I would have here is the quarterback that they run in there struggles in the passing game, a little bit of rack, super talented. CJ super talented kid, especially by MAC standards. I don't know where these MAC teams are getting these super athletic quarterbacks. For a team that you look at some of these teams, they barely got any skill position. But again, talented guy. He offers a little bit more explosiveness in the run game that Rourke did, but I thought Rourke was the best quarterback in the MAC by a good distance. A kid that I think can actually, if he entered the portal, I think there'd be some, definitely some Power 5 interest in him. He might even do that in the offseason. I don't know with the knee surgery and stuff we'll have to go through, but I like the number you got it at. I'm a little, he would be just a hesitant past me now where it's at with CJ Harrison. If they get down, can Toledo scheme it up where they can sell out against the run here and is he able to I took an early under position on this one too, but it's a one that's far away, far gone there. So yeah, this is one that if we're doing the show yesterday, I'd open couple of real good bets where they're at a current. I think this is more fair.
Agree.
I'd still slightly lean Ohio, but it's one that if Rourke would have played, I think this would have been an absolute banger. Just unfortunate with the knee injury for him. I still think they could get it done though.
I was going to ask you on the total. I got 62. I see it. I really even trickled down further today on a 55. Circa, again, sharper number. I mean, the rest of the books are paying 62. Circa comes in at 56, 56 and a half.
Yeah, and that was, the board was running. For that. I'd agree with, I had played some, I think some 61, and I saw that open, and I couldn't click fast enough to try and get in, the rest of a fill there. So yeah, much sharper number there by them, and it's even gone down a little bit further. I agree. Two teams there that
Toledo's quarterbacks are compromised too. I mean, I don't know. I think DeQuan Finn might be a head case. I mean, it might be some injury, might be just him. I don't know. He might be getting offers to transfer out. Tucker Gleason playing with a broken hand. I mean, he played like crap. And again, they lost to Western Michigan. So I get the moves. Again, it sucks that, we're doing this on a Monday afternoon, that the lines have already been taken care of. 2 quick more games to get to. Sunbelt, another big line mover. You have to be one of these guys that you want to talk about a bad number. So Circa did for all season long. Circa's the opening number. I mean, look, you're going to find value when you got to open every single side total. You're going to find value into it. But thank you to Circa for not opening up yesterday, because other books are opening up, and somehow we get one of the worst lines that I've seen in college football since early this season. I don't know how. There's only 10 games on the board. We're at the end of the season. 4.5, 5, Troy, home favorite. I mean, I couldn't bet it enough. Let's just say there was orders put out, and it was bet whatever you can. This is a really bad number. Were you part of that yesterday when you saw some of them early books releasing this one?
Yes, the Sharks were in the water here for some of the, as you said, some of the early stuff to get in. I was comfortable playing it up to 7. I'll be honest with you. I think it's gone a little bit too far to be honest. Like I agree.
When McCall is out, is it too far? Because
that's totally fair. Because the backup quarterback play for Coastal's been bad, been real bad. I thought that kid Carpenter would come in and he had played a lot of football. They haven't played him. They played this freshman. Doing. Like he's been brutal. I will say, I think this will affect the market. I think at some point, I just think McCall is going to try and give it a go. I think that it could be a Blake Corum situation where he gets announced in. I think you'll see a market reaction. Can he actually be effective though? I don't know. I think it's one that it's right on the cusp. They said 4 to 6 weeks. It's been 4. I think it's just one that like it's probably his last collegiate game at Coast. I think he'll try. I don't know what he'll be able to. It'd be one that you might see. He gets played. It steams back down, and then maybe he's just not able to do anything, and Troy buries him anyway. So, I mean Troy, like I think he got my hopes up because they were losing at halftime to Arkansas State there.
I forgot Mr. South Alabama.
Yeah, I know. I had a new. I had a Detroit City block on South Alabama futures there if they could have got to the tunnel in there. So, it's one that super short to open. I wouldn't play. I mean, you're still more bullish on it than I am at 10.5.
I'm not running now.
I just like Gunnar Watson. I don't think he's any good. I think Jared Dodge should be playing quarterback for them. He was horrid in the first. And again, Arkansas State kind of melted there, but that was a football game for 3 quarters because Gunnar Watson was so freaking bad. So I think Troy's offense at times can be pretty rough with him at the helm. But their defense is like legit like Power 5 level elite. So if McCall can't go, Coastal's dead in the water.
McCall, the article I was reading, we'd have more clarification on the 30th, that being Wednesday. So that would be the day that I would be watching the markets because line's going to move several points if he gets announced in. But again, I might actually turn right around and rebet it because we see that all the time. So my biggest position this week will be on Troy. So we'll see what ends up happening there. One final game, then we got to pick a best bet. This might be it because I like Fresno. I'll just come on.
I can't believe you, Nate, because we're then we're aligned here.
All right, so I bet Fresno plus 4.5. I think anything above 3 is worth a bet. 2 completely different teams from the first time that these two teams played. Obviously, Fresno didn't have Jay Kaner. Jay Kaner gets back in the lineup. What do? They won 7 in a row. Boise State, I think, after watching what happened last week and how fortunate they were. The final score says, hey, Boise had a big game. No, they didn't have that good a game. They could have lost outright. So I think that little bit of a misleading final creates some value. I like the rematch. I like that they have experience, Fresno does, on the blue turf. And, I just – anything above 3 I think is worth a bet. So that would be if you agree, that would be my best bet would be Fresno here, plus 3.5.
Yep, we're in line there. We can lock it in there. Some 3.5 there. I think
might have to lay 115. I'm okay with 115.
Yep.
But look at that flat. There you go.
Yep. So I mean, again, it's a Fresno team that's been so difficult to price throughout the year. And, they started off a lot of talent coming back. They had a rash of midseason injuries, including Jay Kaner, who's probably worth 6 to 8 points for them in terms of the drop off to that. And it's a Boise team. I don't know. Boise had I don't know if this was like them taking it like a bye week versus Utah State, but they had a ton of guys out, as you said, that didn't play in that game. Not names that like your average fan might know, but a ton of guys on their two deep that didn't play. That'll be one we'll have to watch the status. But as it stands, I still like Fresno anyway. I actually, I took some early Fresno here. I'm still fine with it at 3.5. I do a little bit of crossing with guys I bet with. He liked Boise, I like Fresno. We crossed with it there, so I still like it. I still like it at 3.5. I got some little smattering of Fresno futures there. I'm not hedging. I think Fresno wins this game. They're a better team. And again, Boise made some significant, mid-season changes there that helped turn around. I mean, it was a sinking ship for the first half of the season. Yep. They made some changes. They're definitely better. But better quarterback, better coach, only team in the Mountain West that I think has comparable, what I would say front seven talent to Boise. What do they, what has the second half been in there? They go up against teams. There's these poverty Mountain West rosters with no talent. They bully the shit out of them. And then they're able to, and who's one of the teams with that plays a little bit more of a similar style that was able to be a competitive game? Wyoming. Fresno basically had, Fresno is, kind of a Wyoming level style of, defensive front with a lot more talent on offense, and actual NFL skill talent at the wide receiver, and maybe Hayner's a late round guy. So for me, anything 3.5 or better there, I like it. I think they got a great shot to win this outright.
Fair enough. That's good enough for me. If we got best bet there, any other closing thoughts?
Let's talk national title. I don't think there's any other. We can skip the celebration bowl, but what do you, national title prices, future, any stuff going into it? Do you think? Do you think with a USC or a TCU loss, A, do you think that both of those teams are in regardless? B, do you think Ohio State has any shot to get in? Ohio State or Bama? What's your take on the playoff here picture for what's got to happen?
Wow, that's a good question.
Because there was some people that traded, Ohio State got up to, and some of these legals do live futures. I saw Ohio State get up to 25-1 after the L. And I got to be honest with you, I don't know what happened if USC loses to Utah.
Yeah, they're out. Yeah, SC's out.
I agree. I think they're out, and then who's getting that 4 spot? I don't think the Big Ten deserves 2 teams. I think it's
Ohio State, but I mean, I would not be absolutely stunned if it was Bama, to be honest with you. It wouldn't stun me. But I think just 1 loss compared to 2. Even though that one was at home and they got blown out. I mean, Alabama, 2 losses, coin flips on the road. I mean, I can see it, but I do think if SC loses, it's not SC's out.
I agree.
It's Ohio State or Bama for that 4th spot.
I agree. Yeah. I think the 3, Georgia, Michigan, TCU probably in regardless of what happens this weekend.
I would agree at this point. Even that's saying something for TCU. That a couple weeks ago they're on the outside looking in. Now they can lose a game and still get in. That's unbelievable.
No, I agree.
And you people want more of these fucking teams in? I mean, come on. Yeah, Ohio State gets in. Now all of a sudden they lose by 3 touchdowns at home against Michigan. It's okay. They're in. Still, I mean, these games, some of these big games have to matter at some point, but they're not. They're going to matter less coming up in the future.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I honestly, I thought, maybe 8 at max was kind of the right number. The 12 is, you're going to get some real fringe teams getting in there once they change it up. But
the least.
I'll be fascinated to see. What happens if USC? I think for the Pac-12's sake and for the committee's sake, you might have the most questionable officiating of all time in that, because they need USC to win that game. So I think make the decisions much easier, or you're going to have some quite the controversy there. So that if USC loses, then everyone's got quite a decision on their hands.
Here's what I will say. I think we are heading towards a Michigan-Georgia national championship game.
I agree.
Give me Michigan against TCU. Give me Georgia against USC. Obviously, they're both going to be favored, but I'm saying I would be looking to bet those two teams against the spread in those games. So I think both those teams can get margin in that game. So that would be something. Especially, I just cannot believe as we close this out, if you'd have asked me how good Michigan's been the last 2 years, I would have never guessed it. What they dealt with during COVID, what that program was like during COVID. I questioned everything with that program during COVID, whether they wanted to play, whether it really meant something. Hell, even after last year's playoff, I thought they were going to be pretty good this year, but and I guess they're getting nicked a little bit, obviously still in recruiting because of it. But with him 1 foot out the door, wanting to leave to the NFL, I would not have been sitting here saying, "Yep, Michigan looks like they're going to play for the national championship." I'm just stunned by it. And that's kudos for Harbaugh and his coaching and his culture there.
No, I like the ceiling on this year. I would have never, I would have said, 9-10 win. That'd be a good season following up off of last year, but. To go 12-0 and to go into Columbus, where they haven't frickin' won since I don't even know who was in office at that time, but and now you're.
It was still Clinton. It was right before the disaster. They were still counting ballots for the 2000 election. It was going to be Al Gore, Bush.
To go and have a legit shot to, I would have never said they had a legit shot to win a national title this year. But I agree. And then you might, you get in a spot where, it's one game versus Georgia. And I agree. I think Georgia's better, but it's not last year's Georgia team. I agree. So they should be the favorite. They will be the favorite. They should be the likeliest to win it, but it ain't the last year's Georgia team. So yeah, before 9, it's a mind bender to think about that. The last win there was before 9/11. Jesus Christ. Been a rough day. You wonder why I'm so off my rocker all the time. I've watched a dozen straight losses in Columbus's program. So yeah, kudos to them. And I'm excited to see it. Because last year, going into, I think Michigan had a real shot to win the national title, even making the playoff. No. This year, and you're one of those, when you're not in that top 2, 3, you only get a handful of these opportunities every, 10 or 20. So you got to take advantage. This would be the one that to take advantage. So we'll see, man.
There is no 2019 LSU, 2020 Alabama this year. It's very doable for Michigan. So if I'm a Michigan fan like yourself, I'd be excited at the opportunity because you don't get a lot of these opportunities, and Michigan would be their first title in a quarter century for them. So I wouldn't mind it to see a little bit of new blood. Unless you got anything else, that's going to do it for me, man.
No, I think that wraps it. Look forward to a championship weekend, and then diving into to bowl season as it gets bowl season and playoff time. So. Yeah, good regular season. Good to have our boys at Circa on board. And, hey, look forward to a conference championship weekend here.
You have been watching Hit the Books on the Hammer Betting Network. He is Joey Knish, and this one was powered by Circa Sports. And keep in mind, you bet I was going to give kudos to Zach Phillips, and he shut me off. I got to do the read, buddy. Come on, you sent me the read. Bet like the pro. You can make sure to bet like the pros with the world's largest sportsbook right at your fingertips. It is Circa Sports. You experience the big bet apps with the highest betting limits, better money line splits, lowest hold percentage, best customer service, more. Get your new bookie today at circasports.com. That'll do it for the show. Talk to you next week, guys.